Thank you for joining us. Top Focus, a situation that does not seem to be changing anytime soon, only making things worse for the citizens living in the national capital. Yes, we're talking about the air quality. Now, with pollution peaking and the air quality only continuing to deteriorate, several parts of Delhi today are reporting AQI numbers above 400, including areas like Jahangirpuri at 431, Anand Vihar at 422, and Wazirpur at 428. In fact, most other areas reported an AQI between 300 and 400.
आतिशी जी और अरविंद केजरीवाल जी जरा बताने का कष्ट करेंगे कि अब तो पटाखे भी क्या टाइम चला गया, दिवाली जा चुकी है, फिर क्यों AQI लेवल 400 से पार है। उसका सीधा सीधा कारण है अरविंद केजरीवाल साहब, आपकी पंजाब की सरकार। लगभग 40% मामले जो हैं वो सिर्फ पंजाब से हैं, और जिसको आप पानी पी पी के गाली निकालते हुए कोसते हैं हरियाणा, वहां पर टोटल 870 मामले आए हैं 10,693 मामलों में से। इसलिए मेरा मानना है कि इधर गालियां देना बंद करिए हरियाणा को, जरा पंजाब में उनको बोलिए भगवंत मान जी को कि सख्त से सख्त एक्शन लेते हुए पराली को रोकिए वहां पे।
Now, the situation is also a double whammy as the 4-day Chhath festival continues. A troubling sight disrupted the religious spirit along the banks of Yamuna River. Let's tell you, Delhi High Court has now denied permission to the devotees to perform Chhath Puja on the banks of Yamuna River. Earlier, a PIL was filed at the High Court challenging the ban on the ritual. However, the court refused to issue any directions and cited the severe water contamination in the river.
Festival of Chhath is underway in the national capital, but every year we see the visuals of people struggling when it comes to the water quality when they take dip in the water of the Yamuna. We are currently present at the Okhla Barrage, and a more concerning news that is coming in is from the report by the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, which talks about the level of fecal coliform in this particular water. Now, the fecal coliform is basically an element that describes the presence of untreated sewage as well as pollutants. Now, according to the report, 7 out of 8 sampling sites in the national capital are out of the permissible value. Where we are currently present at the Okhla Barrage, here the amount of the fecal coliform is 720 times more than the permissible value. While the range should fall between 500 to 2500 units, the amount of fecal coliform, which is the amount of untreated sewage plants, is 720 times, almost 18 lakh when it comes to this particular body side. And now these anti-foaming sprays happening to remove the visible foam, but this becomes a question whether these sprays can also change the nature, change the level of pollutant, because it will just reduce the visible amount of white foam that comes in on this particular surface. Another news that came was the BOD levels, which is the ability of the water, the capacity of the water to clean itself. It has also reduced and it is out of the safety standards. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party has always blamed the opposition states of UP and Haryana. However, the reports tells a complete different story. The only site where the water and the pollutants are in the permissible range is at the Palla village, a place where the Yamuna enters into the national capital.
Kritika Tiwari, my colleague, joins me for more. Kritika, very good afternoon. As you keep us ahead as far as what the situation's looking like, of course, initially we were talking about the air quality that continues to deteriorate. In fact, some of the areas are very alarming in terms of the number, 400 plus. What is more unfortunate is that we expected, these numbers. Having said that, double whammy with how we're looking at the water pollution crisis unfold as well. In the overall aspect of this, while you've also reported before the festival and now we're looking at this at least a week after, what hasn't really changed is the fact that there's no accountability, which is the larger aspect of some action that should come through.
Well, what we have been witnessing for the last 1 month, in fact, is a continuous deterioration in the air quality. That is both before and after Diwali. Now, even though the temperatures haven't dropped to the extent that is expected in the month of November, that in itself is just bringing us a little more respite. Because had there been more fog, the situation of both the haze as well as the amount of pollutants that get trapped would have been even higher at this point. Despite that, despite the warmer temperatures, in fact, we are still seeing numbers above 360 as an average in Delhi today, and a couple of stations also very close and above the severe category, that is well above the 422 mark as well. And those stations have been repeatedly day after day reporting these numbers. Anand Vihar, Jahangirpuri, Wazirpur, also areas near Lajpat Nagar like Nehru Nagar, they've frequently dipped into the severe category, and that is quite alarming for the residents. However, measures that would bring respite to the residents are not making the type of progress that we would expect. Yesterday also we heard the Environment Minister make announcements about how new teams would be deployed in order to monitor the pollution level at these stations. But what happens when the pollution actually does spike and when it is not being able to control? Instead of accountability, as you said, what we see is a major political blame game that plays out, which again does not help the residents at all. Even the Supreme Court has pulled up all the state governments in the NCR as well as the Central Pollution Control Body for inaction, repeatedly calling it a toothless body that exists because of the lack of penal actions that's taken on the officials responsible to make sure that these levels are according to the national standard. But we are far above that level. We've exceeded that level over 100 times now in the last few days. Currently also the pollution levels are 60% above the national standard, and that is extremely concerning. A lot of residents that we've spoken to and also see on their commute or also walking on the roads are not taking enough precautions, as a lot of them say they're already used to it. So the distinction that needs to come in when the air quality actually hits a critical level is not translating on the ground as well. There is not a lot of awareness in that sense as well. As you were mentioning about the Yamuna River, the Delhi government's council themselves had spoken about how polluted that river is, and because of that temporary ghats have been set up, and residents and devotees in fact cannot be allowed to go into the Yamuna River to pray to the sun god during the festivities of Chhath. Again, in spite of crores of rupees being spent on Yamuna rejuvenation, we're not seeing impact on the ground. In the morning, we showed you visuals of the thick layer of foam that had formed, as well as the pollution committee's report on the increased level of fecal chloroform, as well as the depletion of oxygen in the river as well. When we stand there, there is clearly a stench of chemicals, not just of decaying pollution, but also a very strong industrial smell that comes from the entire ghat. And that ghat, mind you, today will be shared both by the Delhi border as well as UP, where devotees from both Delhi and Noida will be again dipping into that water to pay their respects to the sun god this festival of Chhath. So what we're actually seeing on ground is that the residents are continuing to live their lives as normal, while the pollution level all around us are exceeding to a level that is quite dangerous for the health of everyone involved.
Right, Kritika, thank you very much for drawing an overall perspective as to what we're essentially looking at on the ground. And as you continue to track that for us, continue to stay safe given what we're looking at unfolding in the national capital. But let's tell our viewers, it's not just Delhi NCR citizens that are breathing toxic air. Maximum City Mumbai too is dealing with the situation. In fact, Mumbai has reported an AQI of 120 in the moderate category, making it extremely uncomfortable for citizens.